So I hope you have a little energy for the next 20 minutes. I have a short presentation for you today. And it's always hard to compete with coffee, especially in Sweden. We love our coffee. So I will try to keep myself short and also kind of activate you at some point here. So first, I'd just like to say I'm very pleased to be here. It's wonderful to be in a meeting where so many experts and enthusiasts for eco-village living are gathered. And a special thanks to Robert Hall, Carl Randau, and Jesus Pacheco for actually bringing me here. I myself have lived there in Söderbyn several months and have really enjoyed it. And first started my interest in eco-villages back in 1996 when I did an experience week at Findhorn, which really kind of blew my mind. And since then I've been sort of collecting, staying in the mainstream, but collecting more and more experiences of eco-village living, and that's hopefully where I'll end up one day. So the circular economy is my subject today, and I think it's got a lot of things, a lot of interest for eco-village experts and enthusiasts. It's a very timely topic, one that is kind of hot. Many politicians and many economists are sort of looking at this idea of a circular economy. So, let's see if I can get the technology to work here. So just a quick agenda here. I see a little spelling problem there, but quick introduction. What is the circular economy? Why is it interesting? How can it be used? Where do we start? And a conclusion. So that's the agenda, and we'll get right on with it. Just a quick mention that I'm here as a representative of CradleNet, which is a nonprofit organization. About 100 or so designers, architects, consultants, all enthusiastic about creating a circular economy. And as it says here, our vision is to help Sweden transform itself to a circular economy where there is absolutely no waste produced. It didn't say that, but we say that when we talk to people. I think we're living in very exciting times, and that is because our generation, those of us living now, have been given sort of the assignment, as it were, of redesigning and rethinking the way we organize our society and our economy, so the way we produce the things we need, respect our natural environment. And I think it's one of the reasons we're set to design this in a new way is that it is very hard to have a productive economy and a healthy society without a well-functioning ecological system. So if I was better at PowerPoint, you would see these three circles as a sort of like a wedding cake, you know, the three rings. So the mother system is actually the ecological system. And then on top of that, or embedded in it, is the social system. And so on top of that is the economic system. So basically, if we don't have a healthy, productive ecological system, nothing else works. And this is something that we are learning the hard way on a global basis. So what is a circular economy? A circular economy is a proactive school of thought. It's a way of thinking paradigm in which social and economic development is created, which respects the principles of nature while meeting human needs. The circular economy aims to create production and consumption processes which work in endless material loops that leverage nature's regenerative power to enhance the quality of life for humans and all living things. So we often forget that the world around us is regenerative. It wants to regenerate always. And I've got a huge lesson in this in the last few weeks. About 6 weeks ago, I was lifting something, and I turned the wrong way, and I really hurt my back. So I got what is called a slipped disc, or in Swedish, diskbråck. And that is probably the most pain I have ever experienced. So about 6 weeks ago, I was unable to walk, basically. So I would get up and eat, and I would walk around the block. It would take me maybe, to get from here to the breakfast area, would take at least 30, 40 minutes. and in very much pain. But through the process of regeneration, my body has fixed itself. So there was pretty much some help of a chiropractor or two in there, but generally the body itself has actually regenerated what it needed to. And so we have this enormous possibility to work with and to leverage if we just listen to nature. And nature is filled with abundance. Here is a blooming cherry tree, and it's hard to see down there, but nature inspires us to be more good as opposed to being less bad. So I'd like to sort of ask you to take a radical thought in your mind, that is to, instead of thinking of our job as humans is to reduce our footprint, to make the smallest possible negative footprint. The logical conclusion of that would be if we all would leave the planet, then it would be the best possible outcome. But instead of doing that, why don't we use our intelligence, our design capability to go past that and say, no, we want to make the biggest positive footprint. So instead of pushing, tramping down the earth, we would actually like to have as our aim to hug the earth or to caress the earth. So a positive footprint. And this is really what this cherry tree is saying to us. It's instead of saying, well, this year I will only produce 3 blossoms because I want to save my energy, 3 should be enough a few cherries will be seeds for the next generation. No, it produces thousands, literally thousands of blossoms, and much, much more than logically you need for the next generation of cherry trees. But it is sort of fertilizing all the organisms, the whole family of living beings that create this beautiful cherry blossom. So circular economy, one of the radical points is to put into your mind this idea that as humans, we should have an aim to be caretakers of the earth, creating a positive footprint. And when that happens, you sort of release all sorts of positive creativity. I do have technology here. So how are we going to do this? Basically, we need to also think, instead of the traditional economy, the linear economy, which is based on this idea of take things out of the earth, make them into products and services, and then dump them somewhere, send them away to the trash, that we have a linear approach. It's cradle to cradle. The idea that we create things, we use them, and then we give them back to the earth in better shape than they were when we took them or borrowed them. And we need to think in terms of 2 cycles, 2 loops. You remember that circular economy is about endless loops, and we have the biological metabolism, and that would be the loop where we use materials that can be degraded, biologically composted, or used in sort of biological processes. And then we have technological metabolism in society, and that is where we use technological, we use metals or phosphates or practical materials which help us to create our tools, and that if we design these in the correct way, we can reuse these in endless loops. So the technological loop can be used much more efficiently if you think circular use as opposed to this linear use. So take things, make them, and throw them away. And as you'll see in a minute, there's many, many companies, many, many villages, and many, many sort of nonprofits who are using these thoughts. And you might say, well, this sounds a lot like Agenda 21 or some of my eco-friendly thoughts I've had for years. What is new about this, and why is something like the circular economy, why is that a hot topic among politicians all over the world? Well, the main reason is, as many speakers before me have pointed out, we're reaching peak everything. So peak oil, peak copper, peak phosphate. And it's because there are a lot more of us. Today, somewhere around 7 billion, and projected to go up to 9 billion. And this chart, which I think is hard to read, just kind of points that out, that there are many of our key commodities that are reaching a peak. And that means they're much more expensive. And because they're making food more expensive, and housing more expensive, and transport more expensive. All our leaders are starting to wake up and say, we cannot do business as usual. We cannot continue the old way of thinking. Not only that, but the scientists are telling us that our ecosystem, sorry, this is some Swedish for you here, ecosystem boundaries, it says. There are 9 boundaries, and 2 of them we have already gone past, and that would be the nitrogen boundary. We're sort of putting nitrogen in the wrong places in our ecosystem, and also biodiversity. We are, killing off species at an alarming rate. So already this is our mothership, the ecological system which surrounds us all, is being hurt by human activity. So if we continue on, we will ruin basically all our capacity to consume and live, in a good life. So this is what's new, and basically driven by the idea of things cost more. So when I talk to leaders in municipalities or in business, I say, they say, well, you shouldn't be talking to me, you should be talking to the environmental manager. And I say, well, but you know that costs are rising in all areas, and so all waste that you're producing, and they said, waste, but that's our environmental guy, talk to him or her. No, but all waste is lost value, it's lost profit. Aha, they say. So this means the managers and the municipal leaders, they get very interested. So what do you mean exactly? So to really define the circular economy, you need to look at these principles. 4 principles which kind of give you a guideline. So if your eco-village would like to start creating circular products and services, you can use these 4 principles to guide your work. So everything you produce and consume, first of all, you should think in terms of systems. That means you get in your helicopter and look over the big picture of where you're at and say, where are the resources coming into my system? How are we using them? And where are they going? So the big picture, systems thinking. Waste, the second principle here, waste is equal to food. See, I think I have a laser. Waste is equal to food. So in nature, there is no waste, basically. Everything that dies or everything that is used up becomes a nourishment input for some other process. And this is the most elegant design process we know. So we humans are trying to catch up to nature, and we have much to learn. So if we have this idea that every eco-village, everything that all waste that you're throwing away somewhere is just bad process design, and how can you sort of work with that principle? Well, first of all, you think of what are the toxics. So toxic elements in your clothes, your food, your cars, your houses must be taken away. So the clothes most of us have on are produced in a normal, natural way. They're filled with toxic dyes and chemicals. Today I have a nice jacket here, but if I take this off, I have a much less toxic hemp kind of jacket here. So it would be much smarter for me to make a conscious choice not to wear that jacket, but only to wear this jacket, because it's hemp, it's non-toxic, and it's actually not really, I'm using it now, but once it's worn out, I could put it on the compost pile, compost it, and make good soil that I could grow tomatoes in. This jacket, when it's worn out, it will have to be burned because it's toxic. So it's a choice that we need to make. The other thing is to put your waste, or put all things you're using back into technological or biological loops. The third there is diversity is strength. The idea that we should encourage biological, technological, and also cultural diversity in our work to produce, and even as we consume products and services, because this, just like in nature, gives us strength. So the more diversity, the more strength we get. The more human systems are filled with diversity, the more problems these systems can solve. And so finally, renewable energy. As you work to use, as much as possible, renewable energy, sun, so solar power, wind power, geothermal, biomass, for instance, And with so here there are four relatively simple processes that define a circular economy. And see, how am I doing on time? Do I have 5 minutes? Okay. So I just wanted to quick show you some examples. I'll go through this. This is actually a 2-hour slideshow that maybe you'll get access to. So I won't show it to you all, but I'll whip through some of them. Another reason for Ecovillages to be interested in circular economy is it is now accepted by the EU as a key area of promotion. So the EU is committed to the circular economy. Here is a press release, or part of it anyway, from the European Commission, Brussels, 17 December 2012, Manifesto for a Resource-Efficient Europe. And I don't know if you can read this, but it says, in a world with growing pressure on resources and the environment, the EU has no choice but to go for the transition to a resource-efficient and ultimately regenerative regenerative circular economy. Our future jobs and competitiveness as a major importer of resources are dependent on our ability to get more added value and achieve overall decoupling through a systemic change in the use and recovery of resources in the economy. And decoupling being the thought that the more you grow your economy, the more waste you create. So we need to, decouple from that relationship. One reason that this concept is so popular is Dame Ellen MacArthur, and she is a world-class sailor who set a record for the solo sailing ship around the Earth. She did it on her own in 71 days, beat the previous French record, which is 93 days. And because of this, she became knighted, if you might say. She became a dame. So she's about 36 years old, but she is a very powerful woman. And the CradleNet, together with the engineering school, had her come to Sweden in April, and she is the best speaker I have ever seen in my life. She is an incredible woman. So she is not so much a force of, or sort of a dynamic person. She's a force of nature. And she herself has taken all her winnings from her competitive sailing career, and she's put this into a foundation where she's now educating and promoting circular economy to the most powerful people in society. So she's been to the Davos Economic Forum. 3 years ago, she was at the very back in a terrible little room somewhere. This year, she was one of the keynote speakers. And this is why she's one of the reasons the EU has taken this into their manifestos. So when you're seeking funds in the future, you need to at least know a bit about circular economy to put that in your applications. And she's written 2 reports. Her foundation has commissioned 2 reports by the famous consulting company McKinsey that says if Europe was to go to a circular economy, it would save $700 billion a year by reusing materials in the technological and biological loops. These are free. They're downloadable on her site. I don't know if you can see it. It's www.ellenmacarthurfoundation.org. And you will hopefully get access to this presentation. So here, though, I just wanted to sort of end with those loops once again. And these are the more complex version of those 2 loops. As you remember, so on this side here is the biological loop. And on this side is a technological loop. And there are many, many companies now who are working with this. So companies are starting to design their products for disassembly. And here's some scientists from Sweden. Here's the first fellow to talk about circular economy, Walter Stahel, who runs the Product Life Institute in Geneva. The two giant thinkers in this area, Michael Braungart, German toxicologist, and William McDonough, famous American architect. And let's see if I can get, here is Pendleton, a wool factory in the US, who has produces cradle-to-cradle certified wool garments. So many airplanes that you're flying on, if you're flying airplanes, in airplanes will have this on their seats. There's a young designer in Sweden who has made the first ever collection, a haute couture clothes collection using this material as well. Carpet companies in Europe and in the US are using these design methods. So the industrial carpet, like the carpets on the floor here, is sold. One is not really sold, but it's leased. So you buy the function of a carpet, and when you wear it out, you call the company and say, hey, we'd like a new carpet. So they take the old carpet back, and they have the wool on the top and the plastic on the bottom. They have processes to take the wool and reuse it, and the plastic to grind it down, and then reuse that as well. So the idea is that these companies are extremely profitable because they don't have to buy new natural resources. They use old resources. Let's see. Here are other companies, and I don't really have time to go into them. An example of a kind of fun thing, a biological. This is packaging, which you could package any kind of, say, furniture you're shipping or computers, which is made out of mushrooms. So it's two young guys that figured out you could make, like cardboard almost, but with mushrooms. So Dell Computers sends all their laptops to their customers using this mushroom-based packaging. You take out your laptop, you put it down, you take out this packaging stuff, you take it to your backyard, and it's some of it actually has got a little fertilizer in it as well, but it's all bio-compostable. So it's actually good for your backyard. This chair is, let's quickly go to, is designed for disassembly. So 96% of that chair, when you wear it out, it's, you take it back to the company, you get a deposit back, and then you will next year be able to buy this chair in a new form with the latest colors or the latest patterns on the chair, but using 96% of the old material. And so the Ricoh Copiers has a whole ecosystem of companies built around this, this idea that I mentioned here, that there are many, many ways to work on these two loops. So you can maintain things and reuse them as long as possible, like people in Cuba have done because they had to reuse things. You can dismantle and reuse the components, refurbish and remanufacture. Michelin tires, they actually rent out big tires to truck companies, and they take the tires back when they're worn out and reuse them to make new tires. So we're seeing lots of savings and lots of excitement around this, and I think that Ecovillages, who think in this way already, will be the sort of centers of innovation. We see a small community the same size as Druskininkai. It's called Ronneby Commune in Sweden, who has decided to work with this. So they set up a center for circular economy and research, and they've now built 2 daycares, kindergartens, which are totally made in this material. And the reason is they want to attract knowledgeable experts to their community. In competition with other communities which have a little bit better location or a little more interesting universities or something. So they see this as a competitive advantage for their municipality. So I definitely think that Ecovillages will be some sort of a reference point for many communities who are trying to understand what is a low waste or no waste economy and how can we live in this way. So I see that the importance of Ecovillages as a sort of landing station for people wanting to know more will grow, and not just in 10 years, but I think we'll see this year, next year, the next 2 or 3 years, all over Europe at least. And the second biggest nation that started this is China. So we have Europe and we have China who are really going great guns on this idea of circular economy. So that was a quick introduction, and I didn't get to I was hoping to get you to start designing some products already, but we'll have to do that in the break, I think. So thank you very much.